They called it the day the music died. February 3rd, 1959. A cold, dark night in Iowa. A small plane took off from Clear Lake, carrying 3 rising stars of rock and roll. Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and J.P., the Big Bopper Richardson. They never made it to their next show. The crash that followed would become one of the greatest tragedies in music history. But this isn't just a story about a plane going down. This is about what was lost, then, and what rose from the ashes. Buddy Holly was only 22, but he'd already changed music forever. With hits like Peggy Sue, That'll Be the Day, and Every Day. He was doing something no one else had dared to do. Writing, recording, and performing his own song. He wasn't just a performer, he was a pioneer. And he was about to go even bigger. Harley had just left his original band, the Crickets, and was organizing a new tour with a fresh group. The Winter Dance Party Tour. Cold venues, cheap transport, crazy scheduling, and bad luck. The tours was brutal. Buses kept breaking down. One even lost its heat, leading to frostbite for several performers. Everyone was exhausted. So, when Harley chartered a small plane to get ahead to the next show in Minnesota, just to rest and do laundry, 2 young performers joined him. Ritchie Valens, who had recently scored a smash hit with La Bamba, and the Big Bopper, whose Chantilly lace was climbing the charts. It was supposed to be a shortcut. Instead, it was a full stop. The plane crashed minutes after takeoff. All 3 musicians and the pilot were killed instantly. When the news hit, it stunned the world. Rock and roll was still new, still wild, still dangerous. But this felt different. This wasn't rebellion. This was loss. Thousands gathered for the funerals. Radio stations went silent in tribute. The charts froze. Nobody knew what to say. And yet, something started to happen. People started listening to the music more. The records sold out. Radio DJs, once skeptical of rock's influence, began calling the lost musicians visionaries and new artists. Kids like Bob Dylan, Paul McCartney. McCartney later said that Buddy Holly was one of the reasons he picked up a guitar. Dylan claimed he was at a Buddy Holly concert just days before the crash, and that Holly looked right at him. The Beatles, they picked their name partially in tribute to the Crickets. This wasn't the end of rock. It was a rebirth. The tragedy became folklore. 2 decades later, Don McLean would immortalize the moment in his hit American Pie, The Day the Music Died. But here's the twist. The music didn't die that day. It echoed, it grew. It inspired the greatest wave of musical creativity the world had ever seen. From that frozen field in Iowa came the seeds of a revolution, because legends don't disappear. They leave a sound behind. And if you listen closely, you can still hear it. But the story doesn't end in 1959. In the decades that followed, each of the artists' legacies continued to ripple outward. Ritchie Valens, the youngest of the 3 at just 17, became a symbol of Chicano pride. His life and music inspired generations of Latin American artists who saw in him a pioneer, a cultural bridge between communities, languages, and sound. In 1987, his story was turned into the acclaimed biopic La Bamba, introducing his music to a whole new generation. The Big Bopper, a radio DJ turned chart topper, was remembered not just for Chantilly lace, but for his larger-than-life persona that helped define early rock and roll showmanship. His mix of humor and stage presence would become a template for generations of entertainers. And Buddy Holly, his influence only grew. The likes of Elvis Costello, the Rolling Stones, and even Weezer have cited him as a foundational figure. His glasses became iconic, a symbol of the idea that you didn't have to look like a star to be one. You just had to sound like one. Lubbock, Texas, Holly's hometown, established a Buddy Holly Center, part museum, part shrine, where fans from around the world still make pilgrimages to honor the man who changed music before most people even knew what rock was. But perhaps the most powerful tribute came not from a song or a statue, but from the fact that their music, rough, raw, joyful, never left us. It plays on vinyl in basement dens. It flips through diner jukeboxes and classic car radios. It lives in the hands of teenagers picking up guitars for the first time. And every February 3rd, fans gather in Clear Lake, Iowa, at the Surf Ballroom, the last venue Buddy, Ritchie, and JP ever played. They light candles, they sing, they remember. It's not a sad ceremony. It's a celebration, because what those three men left behind wasn't silenced. It was a spark that lit the fuse for everything that came after the Beatles, the Stones, Dylan, Petty, Springsteen, a lineage of sound traced back to a single frozen night in the Midwest. They called it the day the music died, but it's more accurate to say it was the day music proved it couldn't be killed. Like and subscribe for more true music stories that shaped generations. And catch us live every night at 6 p.m. EST for full album reactions and real music history that still matters.